In Brazil, the system functions because of all the little people who make it go around. There's nobody actually running the system. It runs itself. It's like an organism that all the cells work and make it happen. And, so if there aren't terrorists, you have to invent terrorists. And that's happening all the time.
A few years ago, you placed the ad in Variety magazine.
Yes, this was... Universal Pictures had decided they didn't like Brazil, and they were trying to make me cut the film and change it into basically a happy ending, a love story. And I refused, and they took the film away from me, and I didn't know how to get it back, and I was talking to the producer, and he said, well, we'll have to get lawyers, and I said, no, we can't get lawyers because they cost a lot of money. The studio doesn't have to release the film, so they've got all the time. So I decided to make a personal attack on the head of the studio. And so in Variety, I took out an ad. In Variety, the pages are filled with just numbers in print, and they're packed. So this was a very spare thing, and so the page was empty except for a black border, like an obituary notice. And then in the center it said,
Did you design it yourself?
Yeah. And Dear Sid Sheinberg, who was the head of the studio, when are you going to release my film Brazil? Signed Terry Gilliam. Now, the place went crazy because, I mean, that's just a personal attack.
So what were you thinking the morning the paper came out?
Well, when because the ad, I telephoned the ad in, I told them what I wanted and everything, and I thought it was funny. Then I saw it and I realized I'd made a big mistake. This is deadly, this is terrifying. But it was probably the best thing I've ever done because it just, the press immediately got on me. They wanted to know what the story was about. And we started a public battle. Everybody was on my side because, you know, Sid Sheinberg, because he was the studio, he was Goliath, and I was David, and I was the artist, and they were the system that I was fighting. And but it took, I don't know how many months to actually, you know, win, but it was a long, and I actually didn't think we were going to win. I would go on television shows, and they would say, I hear you have a problem with the studio. And I said, I don't have a problem with the studio, I have a problem with one man, his name is Sid Sheinberg, and he looks like this. And I'd pull out an 8x10 photograph of him, and this is in front of millions and millions of Americans.
Bad sportsmanship. A ruthless minority of people seems to have forgotten certain good old-fashioned virtue.
What were your intentions when you began to write it?
It was, well, there were several things. One of them was to see if I could make a film where the happy ending was a man going insane. That seemed an idea. There was another element that started the process, which was in the, when the witch hunts were going on in Europe. If you were accused of being a witch, you were tortured and you had to pay for your tortures. So every time they pulled a fingernail out, you had to pay some money. You had to pay for your days in prison, everything. And I thought this was extraordinary. And so we started this thing. So, and I thought it'd be interesting to do a story about a man who worked as a clerk in one of these witch hunting tribunals, who had wife and children at home, and it was a job. And he was a very nice man. He just happened to be doing this evil work. But that's exactly what happens in the real world. Most people think they're just normal bureaucrats. They're not taking responsibility for what they're involved in. And that was very much what it was about. Actually, it's a film about responsibility, about being part of a system.
Well, what?
12 weeks into the shoot, I realized we were going to have a 5-hour movie and we were going to be millions of dollars over budget, and we couldn't go over budget. So I sat down and just started tearing pages out of the script. But in the end, I ended up with the film I wanted to make, but it's very different than what I started out to make. Strap on your seatbelts, put a crash helmet on, and close those eyes.